This case could be a good example of that if what is out in the media is true about him not only targeting Trump, but also Chris Wray and Merrick Garland, and and maybe others as well. So it could be any one of these idiosyncratic personal issues that he has that we don't know about. And as Ann said, they tend to, the more paranoid the personality, the more they're likely to not communicate with others, because the outside world is very threatening. They don't trust anybody. They don't trust anything. They don't trust anybody to talk about it. So they internalize all this, and we never get that leakage that we look for that allows us to intervene and do that. And then there's another factor here, I think, when you look at this, and there's a phrase that forensic psychologist Reed Malloy talks about, which is this narcissistic linking fantasy. These people often attach themselves to a very famous person. And so all of those people that, certainly Trump, and then if it's true that we're talking about Chris Wray or Merrick Garland, I mean, these people whose names are in the news, and they're high profile people. And, whether it's Mark David Chapman, who took out John Lennon, or whomever, they attach themselves to some famous personality, because now they will forever be linked with this individual. And up to now, they've been pretty much underachievers or low functioning kind of folks. And I'm not demeaning, I know he worked in a nursing home. I'm certainly not demeaning anyone that works in a nursing home. God knows we need those people. But they see themselves as underachievers, and they want the notoriety, they want the infamy. And so they pick a high value target, if you will, someone that's well known. But again, to go back very briefly, even when all those things are in place, it's still not enough to make it happen unless they get proximity. That's where the security comes in. That's where the breakdown was in this case. They allowed this guy to have proximity. And then we have the tragedy that we have loss of life, and people that are wounded, and and all of that.
Yeah, they're only on the up and up.
Yeah, my experience with the government, we're not out killing people because we don't like their politics, at least not internally. We can talk about international terrorism and taking people out. That's another situation altogether. But I think the whole conspiracy thing is that whenever there's a major crime or a major figure that's killed, people want a major event or a major explanation. You don't want just some loser to come up and take out Kennedy or Trump or anybody else. You want it to be some big conspiracy, behind that to explain this thing. You just don't want to think some 20-year-old kid could get on this roof and whack, and unload without some big conspiracy behind it. The Secret Service was in it, and whatever. I mean, there's crazy talk, but unfortunately, or the reality is that a lot of these guys are just loners who, for whatever reason, get lucky. And that's not to diminish the fact that I think we'll find that, as Ann said, there's a lot of planning and prep almost always with these guys.
So on a completely different topic, I just love this one summary about how the situation can bully you. Each era is bullied by one temperament, which seems likely the only one to have. Everyone was trying to be witty in the 1920s, just as everyone was trying to be authentic in the 1960s. So I don't think we tend to give as much credit to how much the situation evokes different personalities in us.
Whatever happened, whatever the anger, the moral outrage was, the grievance, that distills down. It isn't an affective type of aggression. That is emotionally driven. That's the most common type of violence. It isn't as though the guy's running around screaming and yelling and all pissed off, and a road rage kind of thing. Think of as affective sort of violence. It distills into cold predatory violence, which takes time. There's planning. There's preparation. It shifts maybe from affective, being emotionally driven. It cools off, dissolves into this cold, hard, predatory violence that distills down to that with a lot of planning and preparation. If I can use a more analogy to kind of differentiate affective from predatory, if you think of a cat, right, and a dog backs a cat up into the corner, what's the cat doing, right? Back is arched, it's hissing, it's swiping and hissing and showing its teeth and basically telling the dog, get the hell away, or you're going to get it. Take that same cat, put him out in the field stalking a mouse. What does that cat look like? Not moving at all. Maybe the very tip of the tail might be twitching just a little bit in anticipation, but it waits. It waits until that moment when that mouse is right there, and then boom, it nails it. That's predatory violence. It looks entirely different than affective violence.